Sup, nerds? I'm Tom.
And I'm Aaron. Today we're taking a look at the game that has poop meeples in it.
Pooples.
Poop
Poop
peoples?
peoples. Peoples. Poop.
Poop
Poop meeples. Poop peoples. Poop peoples. Peoples. Poops.
Poops.
People poops. People's
Little
poops in
wooden
it.
poop.
As people's poops.
Harvest by TMG. When I first saw the components of this game, I thought it was like as like part of Scoville. Like it was like, oh, okay, this is peppers, and then over here we're gonna harvest everything else. But it's not really that game. It just has the Scoville minis that are the same, and that's about it.
Technically, this is in the Harbor universe, but I only played Harbor once, kind of a long time ago, but I don't really feel the similar. Like, there's the cartoony.
The art is the exact same.
Artists, and they use a lot of the same like dudes, right?
Yeah,
Like
these are the same people. Like, yeah, the characters are reused, I can see.
But other than that, in terms of the actual gameplay, it's not, Harbor Part 2, Harbor 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
It just, includes the same art and stuff.
So in this game, you're trying to gather these different crops and resources to grow the crops, and you only have a certain amount of actions, and it's 5 rounds, so you feel like you can't get everything done in this game. It's one of the first, like, worker placement style games where I felt like I don't have enough time.
You have the 2 actions and the 5 rounds. You could say, well, you have 10 actions. Well, I mean, not really, because when you draw or when you draft,
draft these
your
initiative
turnover, there's
cards,
some stuff on there.
Yeah, you kind of get like a bonus action that way, and then if you're like one of the first players to go to the certain areas, you can do multiple things there, and you can choose 2 items instead of just getting one item.
And going here gives you could harvest and plant, right? So it feels like you have you have more than 10 actions, but you kind of have like 10 decisions.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 decisions if you count the draft every single time.
But to actually accomplish anything in here, it's like multi-steps. So you really have to like plan out a couple turns. But then you're like, okay, well, I only have 5 full turns to this game, 5 rounds to this game. So you can't plan too far ahead because you can't. There's only so much you can do. So you're like, okay, I want to get these seeds. I want to plant the seeds. When they plant, they flip over. Then I want to tend to the seeds so they multiply. And then I need to harvest those seeds so I can make more room. Or you could just, kind of ignore the harvesting aspect of it and just like, okay, I'm going to build more places so that I can just keep planting more.
And even though it's called harvest, you don't technically have to harvest. Well, I mean, you do if you want to spend them for money, which, I mean, can get you some bigger stuff. But in theory, you never have to.
These bigger actions down here, they give you a lot more items, but you actually have to spend your victory point stars, which you can only spend if you've harvested them. So there is this like, okay, do I spend an action harvesting so that I can spend those victory points that I had to do an action that could potentially get me more victory points? Because, whether or not you have just the seed or the grown side, you're going to get points for every token you have.
But you only spend the one that you grew.
Yeah, exactly. There's silver on one side and the gold on the other side. So it's definitely advantageous to get them planted and get them, flipped to their grown side. It's just whether or not you harvest them is only dependent on if you want to spend them. You actually need to make sure if you're playing with the hero powers, you kind of go with what your hero does, because that is the way that you get the most points for your play style that has kind of been, given to you. Some like the magician, he starts out with these potions which are very powerful because they can completely tend an entire, one whole plant, which is really good for the Rock League, because instead of spending 5 water, you're spending this 1 potion to multiply, and you go from 1 Rock League to 2, and that's awesome. But you need to make sure you use that to your advantage. You need to be constantly making more potions instead of just like, oh, I'm just gonna do like little things. And then like I played as the mayor once, and the fact that you don't have to make more land, you don't have to make this bigger, you can just build your buildings off to the side. I was like, well, this is awesome. I'm just gonna make sure I build as many buildings as I can because I don't need to have space for them. I just build them on the table.
It is true that the player powers, much like any game that has player powers, it definitely behooves you to play to it and do what it's incentivizing you to do. That being said, I have not, nor will I, ever play with the non-player power side. I just think it would be so boring because, not like, it's not a boring game. I know we haven't gotten to the our thoughts part at the end, but it's not a boring game. But that incentive is because you only have so many rounds, like that incentivization to really say, I've got to do this, puts pressure on you and gives you like a direction. If you just have no direction, it's just kind of like, well, what's the best thing? I could do this, I could do that. But when you feel that like driving force of like, okay, what's the best way for me to maximize the thing that I have, really, it makes the game what it is. By itself, without that, again, having not played it, I guess I can't really speak to it, but I mean, come on, why would you not use that?
So another big driver in this game is actually when you take your turn. You have that in the initiative cards. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, you're dealt out initiative cards that are used to draft your next set of initiative cards. And if you're you have, I have number 8, Tom has number 1 over there. He's looking at the cards that are out here available. He's going to get the first pick, but he puts the one out there and exchanges it. So now I have the option to take number 1 and be first in this upcoming round. But if I were to pick, the number 1 only has it gives you 1 water or 1 harvest.
15, look at 15.
Yeah, if I take 15 and go guaranteed last, I'm getting 2 water, 2 poops, which who doesn't want poop? And you get to harvest and get a bean. There's just it's so much more for your taking that action or taking that initiative versus if you take the lower ones, you're guaranteed to go first, you're guaranteed to get to take the action you want to take. There's a whole bunch of weighing when to do what.
I do agree with you that is balanced in a sense of first player doesn't get as much but last player gets more, but I feel like the drafting of the turn round is something kind of added in there just to beef the game up a little bit. The mechanics are pretty simple and what you do is pretty simple. I feel like that, as well as the elixirs, was something not shoehorned in or thrown in as an afterthought, but I felt like they designed the game and they were like, we needed a little bit more oomph, so they put in the drafting aspect, which at the end of the day is good. But I do feel there's a little bit of juxtaposition with the drafting for turn order versus how you play, because you're right, going first is good sometimes. There are some times when I'm like, look, I'd much rather take that better stuff regardless. I wouldn't be able to put my dude there and get harvest and plant. Maybe. There's 2 spots there, and if there's like a 3-player game, yeah, you use both spots in a 3-player game. So I'm like, so there's 2 spots there. So if I go last, I mean, maybe it'll still be open. And even then I can go to the thing where I get to do 1 action. So sometimes I feel like that doesn't really work the way they intended it to. It doesn't give you that real, really tough Rosemary's Choice. No, Rosemary's Baby. What's the... Sophie's Choice.
The quality of these crops are amazing. If this manure must be amazing because no, but the quality of the game is actually it's good. These tokens are nice and thick. The workers are great. I guess they can fall over. This board didn't fully bend. You just need to bend it a little more. But the cards are the linen finish. They're nice. The artwork. I love this cartoony artwork. That may be a turnoff for some people, but I do like it, and I feel that it kind of. The artwork's spread out over everything and it works real well. And these minis are these little little poops are just so cool. They're so cute. They're like, oh, cute little poop. I kind of want to put little eyes on it or something.
You want to put it in your mouth, don't you?
Just.
Oh God!
Oh, I got poop in my mouth.
Now we're getting to the part where I say what I ultimately thought about the game, and I think my opinion is a little bit skewed because 1, this was kind of sold to me as a worker placement game, which. There is a worker placement aspect to it, but overall it's not truly a worker placement game.
Place your worker, you take an action.
Right, but that's that is incidental to what you're doing. That's just how you get. But there's the drafting is also as equal a part as in terms of time and stuff of the game, and you're planting and attending the resource management team. So it is a bit of a blend. But we got this at the same time as we got Chimera Station. And playing these back to back, I definitely liked Chimera Station a lot more. So it's an unfair assessment, but given the fact that we have Chimera Station and this on our shelf at the same time, I'd choose Chimera Station over this. It does have its place, and it's fine. It's fun. There is some cool things. I just felt it was a little bit finicky, a little bit, I didn't, the whole flipping, well, you get it as a seed and you flip it when you plant it and then you spend water to grow it and then you harvest it. Well, you don't have to harvest it, but, ever so slightly clunky and, how good are the buildings and, how much better is the 15 over the 1. A lot of things just felt like this game, I enjoyed it, but it did kind of miss the mark for me a little bit. It was a solid, it's a solid C or C plus or B. We don't give letter grades, but I'm doing it now, I'm fine with Aaron or Wes or whoever owning this and playing it when I go over to their house. It's not something I would love to have on my shelf and I'm going to pull it out and play it all the time. Chimera Station is, and we'll talk about that in another video. And again, I know it's an unfair comparison because they're pretty different games, but I happen to play them back to back, and so I'm going to compare them. And they're both made by TMG, so get Chimera Station.
Yeah, in Chimera, you're building your workers as you place them. Like, they're getting better and better. So yeah, it's a lot different.
It is different. They're
It's
totally different. It's unfair. I know it's unfair, but that's my experience. That's how I experienced Harvest, was as a Chimera Station comparison.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a smaller game, well, I mean, I guess Chimera is what the Scoville size box, right?
This definitely is smaller.
Yeah, it's a smaller box game. So if you're this can fit in your glove box. Chimera Station can't. I like it for the fact that it's quick. It's a lot quicker than most worker placement games. It's 5 rounds, and it can get kind of bogged down if people are trying to maximize their points, because you have 5 rounds. You really do have to maximize your points. You may be sitting there thinking, okay, this and then this and then this. What steps should I take on this turn? But they're only going to do that a couple times. It's 5 rounds and you're done, and you're trying to get these seeds and plant them, and I like it. I guess I'm just a sucker for TMG, and I kind of was like, oh, TMG, I want that game. I want to put it with all of my other TMG games on the shelf. So if you're like that and you're very loyal to one company and you want to have all their stuff, you're definitely going to get it. If you like worker placement games, I feel like this is a good intro into worker placement. In a way.
But, the thing is a blend,
Yeah, it's very, there's a lot of things going on, though.
And not any one thing is one prominent to say that it's that type of thing. And also, I would say not any one thing is all that great. Like, we were talking about the drafting, and while I liked the drafting, I felt it was not super duper important, and the worker placement, it's not extremely a worker placement game,
Yeah, so this game definitely isn't like my number one game. It's not making my top 10, 20, 30. I don't know. I don't know where it goes. I don't make a list that big. Like, I just go, oh, I like this game, and I play it. Like, I don't really. It takes too much time to weigh them out.
So you said you're a sucker for TMG, and I understand that most of their games, like, this is probably the first semi-negative review I've ever given for a TMG game, but in terms of their other games, so like Chimera Station or Scoville, and whether those are fair comparisons or not, they have made better games.
Mm-hmm. Like, I definitely will pick Scoville over this one if I have. I mean, they take about the same amount of time. Scoville is going to run a little longer. Mm-hmm. Chimera Station is going to run longer than this game. Yeah. Because they're so much more complex. Like, this is semi-complex. It's more mathematical, though. This is very, if you like a little bit of a thinky game in a small box, I guess that's how you could put this. You're definitely trying to min-max your turns, and it almost feels kind of Euro-y, and the fact that you're collecting these resources. You got to get your poop, you got to get your water, you got to use it to take this action to get these points to turn them into more points. It's
quick to explain, because like right there you just did it. It's quick to explain, but there is a little bit of AP with analysis paralysis with what you do after that. Okay, so here's how you play. Okay, got it. And then from there, okay, well, what's the best thing to do? And I mean, again, not trying to hark on the game. I think it's a solid game. I just think Chimera Station, Scoville,
the other one, the cards, the squares.
Oh, Guilds of London. Yeah. Oh, I love Guilds of London. I just think this isn't TMG's best game. It's solid, but it's not their best game.
And if any of that sounds good to you,
it's always hard to not say we love a game and then suggest that you buy it. But either way, you should, just so you can give us money. In fact, just We'll put Aaron's address down there. Where you just send him. Oh, don't send him. Okay, we'll put my. I don't want my address out there though. So.
And while you're down there, if you're buying this or not buying it, or if you're going to like dislike this video, you shouldn't do that. You should like it, but then you should subscribe so you'll never be bored.
And then hit the bell.
Yep, ding, 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 ding. Leave some comments about why you think Tom is wrong.
I do feel like you're wearing kind of a lumberjacky shirt, which is pretty good. I mean, this isn't about cutting down trees, but it is outdoorsy. Sort of
farming.
You can hoe in that shirt.
I could hoe in this. I could do the hoe down.